Hi, everybody. I'm Richard Sher, and it's time to square off. And we're welcoming you to a very special square off. It's a two-person debate, two panelists, attorney Billy Murphy, talk show host extraordinaire Andrew Langer. So let's get started. Last show of the year, last show of 2024. And what are we in for next year? President-elect Donald Trump will take the oath of office on January 20th, 2025, for what he has suggested could be the end of presidential elections as we know them. We'll open our square off in this special broadcast asking for your thoughts on the return of Donald Trump to the White House. Andrew Langer, kick it off.
Well, sure. Let's be fair. I think contextually what Donald Trump was saying, and Lord knows we're now back to this where we're going to be interpreting everything Donald Trump says. Donald Trump was saying that you're going to love this term of Donald Trump so much you're not going to want to vote for anyone else, which is a very interesting way of putting things. Listen, I mean, here's the thing, and I just had this conversation with my colleague Jerry Rogers. We have been in a change political modality for, I would say probably the last 14 years, basically since actually almost 20 years now. So, because it's 2024, never do math on the air. But, since the 2006 elections, America has been hungering for change in terms of their politics, with the exception probably of the 2012 election, which was, the aberration in all of this. Americans have consistently voted for wanting some change in the direction of the country. And that's what they're clamoring for. And that's what Donald Trump is promising. And I know we're going to have a lengthy discussion this morning about this. And I see this as really a debate, a discussion as opposed to a debate.
Right.
I always love sitting down and talking to Billy. So, that's how I'll sort of set things up in my mind.
Go ahead, Bill. Welcome.
Well, the hankering for change is not entirely a positive thing in America. We're seeing a rise of divisive rhetoric, racist rhetoric, anti-Semitic rhetoric, and it's becoming and misogynist rhetoric, and it's becoming more and more acceptable in America to say these ugly things openly, and to Trump's lack of credit. You can debate whether Trump's a racist, but as far as racists themselves are concerned, he's one of them. They love him. They think he has advanced the racist ball down the road. One white supremacist recently said that he has made white identity politics a hot topic and spreading like wildfire, along with Elon Musk. And so change is not necessarily good. It's got to be great change, and we don't see much of that coming from Trump's mouth and from his cabinet appointees. Many of them are very troublingly incompetent. They've never had experience in the relevant areas where they're now in charge of some of the most important aspects of American government. For example, as a Defense Department guy, Hedgepeth is going to purge the generals and the upper level officers of what he calls woke politics and identity politics, and it's just a racist becoming.
Okay. Billy, I mean, let's talk about that for a minute, because the reality is that we already saw the massive changeover in leadership at the Defense Department under President Obama, who, fired a bunch of top generals while he was president because he wanted to remake the DoD in his own woke DEI image. And so any general who was going to challenge that mindset found themselves out of a job. And so, it's one of those things. Again, Billy, you're a lawyer, so you understand this. What we have been seeing over the last 30 years in American political and policy systems is a return towards the center. that between the 1930s and the 1990s, we had jurisprudence, political philosophy that was pulling America ever further leftward. And in the 1990s, that started to change with a series of decisions by the Scalia court. And over the last 30 years, we're seeing that return. So, you get these moments where folks are not happy about this. Barack Obama not happy about his politics not being followed at the DOD. So there are a bunch of firings that happen. So Pete Hegseth comes in, and I would say Pete Hegseth is not incompetent. Pete Hegseth, at least has had a military career. We can talk about, secretaries of defense who were never in the military and how they fared there. Well, so at least Pete Hegseth had a career in the Army, but sort of
he
understand.
was a
Hold on for a
major
second.
who
Hold on for a second,
commanded
Billy.
between 30 and 40 troops, tops.
But okay, but again, we've had defense secretaries who've never commanded troops, never been in the military. So my point in all of this is, we cannot have our Defense Department, we cannot have our military services be used as some kind of woke experiment, right? We're gonna, getting our vehicles, getting our military vehicles to be electric vehicles or on some kind of, green fuel, or where we have some kind of a political indoctrination of our senior military officials that then trickles down, which turns, these individuals in the military. We can talk about racism if you want and how DEI has exacerbated that. But anyway, I'll see my time. Richard wants to jump in.
I mean, you're giving the Trump talking points. I mean, the whole notion of woke comes from the notion of being awake to what's really happening rather than hiding under a rock or going back to the good old days when the Civil War was romanticized and looking at the red states in a way that's different than the way they actually behave. And so all of these terminologies that you use are bound to be divisive. And
well,
now
okay,
let's go back to what you said about women. Now, you talked a lot. My turn.
Okay.
My turn.
All right.
Now, you talked about Barack Obama. One of the things that Barack Obama was sensitive about is that the world is 85% people of color. And he wanted his administration to reach out to as many of these nations as possible because we depend on most of them for various important things. And so he wanted to let the people of color in the world know that America was no longer a white supremacist nation, that America was concerned about the world in general and was going to be a helper attaining for the first time abroad American ideals.
And Billy, and what did it get
that
us?
exemplified that. Now, wait a minute. Don't be so anxious. Hold on. I wasn't finished.
1 second.
All right.
Now, what troubles me about Trump, among other things, is that he is putting people in office who are tremendously incompetent to serve in some of our most important.
Well, we'll come back to this. I want to focus on the Defense Department for a second.
So now let's go back to the Defense Department for a second.
Sure.
These generals who are currently in office have been following the policies of the U.S. government that were developed during the Biden administration. These are not their policies. These are not the things that they decided to do. When they become a member of the upper levels of government, they follow the policies, whether they initiated those policies or not, whether they believe in those policies or not. Now,
that's actually not necessarily true.
What Trump wants to do is get rid of them because they followed government policy.
No, Billy. Billy. There's a difference between being a yes man. Hold on, Billy.
Just a second. You winning the word battle so far. And so what Hegseth has said he's going to do is purge the U.S.
in the same way that Barack Obama did.
No, there was no purge under Barack Obama.
Yes, there absolutely was, Billy.
Barack Obama didn't purge anything.
Severed things.
And so what's happening is that Hegseth is politicizing the government in a way that has never happened before. The military in particular. So if you like it, you're expressing approval. I don't like it. I think it's a horrible thing.
I'm going to ask you, please, be a little more brief in your comments because we have a lot to cover in this 30-minute period. Andrew, You want to get back at Billy? Go ahead.
Well, it's not getting back at Billy, but it's just responding to the issue, which is yes, of course Barack Obama did have, and Billy used the word purge, so I'll use the word purge of senior levels of DOD management who weren't wanting to follow his policies. Joe Biden and those folks and other folks rose through the ranks, and Joe Biden appointed them into the positions who were going to be yes men. But the reality is, our Defense Department, our military establishment is about being ready to face the crises around the world. So you go back to what happened under Barack Obama and Barack Obama implementing all kinds of progressive policies. If Billy doesn't want me to use the word woke, I'll use the word ultra progressive experimentation. And what did it get us? It got us Russia invading Crimea and taking Crimea, and Barack Obama doing nothing. It got chaos in the Middle East. It got increased piracy. So, we can talk about how we want a Defense Department that reflects what the world is, but then you ignore the reality of China and Russia on the march in these nations and Barack Obama doing nothing to deal with those things. So now we get, Donald Trump getting elected, nominates Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is going to implement the policies that Donald Trump wants him to implement at the DOD to get our fighting forces prepared to meet the threats that are around in a world that is more chaotic than when Donald Trump left office in 2021. Anyway, we could talk about the other areas of DEI, but I'll be brief.
We're going to jump in. We're going to take a break,
Please.
but let me just say this. When Trump was choosing his cabinet nominees, he was looking for certain very specific kinds of people. All of them are Trump supporters. Several are Fox News personalities. Some are former defense attorneys. Some are family members. And many either have experience in their particular field or have a keen interest in drastically changing the new department under President Trump. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to take a quick break, hear from the voice of Square Off, Howard Mallison. We'll get back to the Murphy-Langer debate here on Square Off right after these messages.
Thank you, Rich. The law firm of Barry Glazer specializes in personal injury, medical malpractice, and nursing home neglect. His creative TV commercials have made him very recognizable, so much so that you can't walk down the street without people coming up and thanking him for telling it like it is. Barry and his team have an in-house doctor and nurse on staff. In fact, you should call Barry before you call the insurance company. His clients will tell you that Barry gets you more compensation than you ever expected. He's that good. So give the law firm of Barry Glazer a call at 410-547-8568 and tell him you know about him because you heard about it on Square Off. And with the Ravens, wow, the Ravens are playing phenomenal football right now. And, with the Ravens, Orioles, any sport to watch, you can't find a better place than going to Papa Sports Bars and Restaurant. They have more TVs than you could ever imagine. The room is surrounded by them. Plus, you can have a gourmet meal in the dining room section of Papa's. Either way, the sports bars or the restaurants, you can enjoy the award-winning Papa's crab cake, imperial crab, and much, much more. Plus, they ship crab cakes all over the country. And yes, Oprah gets her crab cake shipped there all the time.
Why
At
not?
Pappas, you'll enjoy a dining experience second to none. Tell them Richard sent you for the fabulous
Fab cakes.
There you
Fab
go.
cakes.
Back to you, Rich.
All right, guys, we're having the Murphy-Langer debate here exclusively on Square Off. President-elect Trump has promised the largest mass deportation in American history. If successful, an estimated more than 250,000 Maryland residents without legal status at risk of deportation, which experts say could damage the state's economy long term. How are you feeling about this mass deportation, Billy? And guys, be brief with your comments.
It's a terrible, ugly idea that's going to split America wider open and make things more divisive than ever. And it's going to be something that is horrifying because it's going to brutally and arbitrarily divide families. It's going to take productive people out of the United States who've been here for years, who have earned their way towards better treatment than what Trump is about to dish out. It's a horrible use of the military because we don't need to have a militarized country. And I think it's Trump's trial balloon in terms of how he's going to be able to control the military when he makes his move towards dictatorship. And so, bad sign all the way around. I don't know how it can possibly be defended except by the literalists who think that merely because someone is an illegal immigrant, they ought to be kicked out of this country.
You know,
That's a
I've got
stupid
a,
notion.
I got a good buddy who told me a story. He was, hasn't gotten along with his dad in a while, and his dad is originally from Europe, but is an American citizen. His dad sold the family business a little over a year ago and decided to go back to Europe. He's been living in France, and his dad didn't fill out the correct paperwork to be a legal resident of France, certainly not a permanent resident of France. And guess what? France decided to go ahead and kick him out. He's got a date certain. He's got to leave the country because other countries don't mess around when it comes to illegal immigration. They recognize that there are national security threats, there are legal threats, there are all kinds of things that are going on. So there's got to be some way of getting at the problem that Joe Biden allowed to fester here in the United States in terms of allowing for mass illegal migration into this country. And so what that means is folks who came here illegally, they're probably going to have to leave. And it's something that's always been on the table. I want to go back to something real quick that Billy said about this dictatorship issue, because I know we're going to talk about wishes for the future. John Fetterman has been a source of great clarity in terms of pushing back on the alarmism. Here's what I know. I know that it wasn't Donald Trump who signed an executive order allowing military troops to be used with lethal force against civilian populations. That was Joe Biden. In September, Joe Biden's Defense Department put out a DoD directive, 5240.1, please go look it up, which allows for lethal force to be used by the U.S. military against civilian populations for 72 to 96 hours without presidential approval. That's how you step towards dictatorship. That wasn't Donald Trump. That was Joe Biden.
Well, I agree that that was absolutely wrong. But Donald Trump is going to double down on it because a directive like that is something that would be used in an emergency situation, hopefully. But a directive like Donald Trump is going to take months and maybe years to implement with full military cooperation and ubiquitousness. They're going to be everywhere. They're going to be hunting immigrants down if Trump has his way. It's going to be something we've never seen before in America since the Fugitive Slave Act.
I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of self-deportation happening at first. That's going to be the first step in all of this, folks who are going to be told to go. But again, you can't, this is classic Marxist dialectic. You create the conditions for a problem, and then you sort of say, well, we can't do anything to solve the problem. So here's where we are. This is the reality in which we're living. Donald Trump has come in there and said, you know something, this is a problem. We have to do something about it. And this is why folks like Eric Adams up in New York are saying, okay, we're on board with this because this has become unsustainable for us.
Well, now, wait a second. As you guys know, Trump has said that he will, quote, be a dictator only on day one.
No, he didn't say only.
Wait.
He didn't say only.
Well, at the beginning, he did. It's day one. All right, I'll stand corrected, Billy. He says he's going to order retribution to those people who have wronged him, including the January 6th committee, especially Liz Cheney. Nancy Pelosi is also high on Trump's list of people with whom he wants to get even. Somebody react
Liz
to
Cheney, but here's the thing, right? If Liz Cheney was manipulating witnesses as a way of getting the outcome that Liz Cheney wanted, Liz Cheney should face some kind of retribution. I wouldn't call it retribution, but punishment for that. That's some kind of accountability there. The reality is, right?
What kind, Andrew? What kind?
I
of
think
You're
Liz Cheney.
minimizing, Andrew. You're minimizing what he's saying.
Well, what I'm doing is explaining the political reality of where we are and where we were 4 years ago. You know,
That's not the political reality. This revengefulness.
To say that. But again, right? What did we have from Donald Trump winning in 2016? all throughout the Trump presidency was Democrats and progressives engaging in political retribution because they couldn't accept the outcome of that. Then Donald Trump comes out of office. There's continued retribution against Donald Trump and anybody who surrounded Donald Trump, around themselves. We had a column in the Hill, Billy, just if not yesterday, if not today or yesterday, the day before, in which you have two prominent Democrat lawyers once again saying that Donald Trump should be turned out of office, which, as clear as I can remember, was considered an insurrection when Donald Trump raised questions, or others raised questions in 2020 about the 2020 election.
It's so not true. That was not the basis. The last thing you said, that it's a quasi-insurrection to say he ought to be removed from office.
What I know is,
wait just a second, my turn.
Hold on, Billy.
That's classic free speech. Now, you seem to be a Trump apologist all the way down the line. Let's talk about this whole retributive, meaning retribution-oriented comment that Trump used. And you got to take him at his word on this, because he could be telling the truth for a change. Now, here's the problem. That's going to divide America unlike anything that you have ever seen before. It's totally unnecessary. It's a waste of time, and it's going to fracture our society. And Trump became a president by dividing America, not by trying to unite America. And so this is just further evidence of where he's going to go. The whole notion that he would appoint an attorney general candidate who is going to try to prosecute the people who tried within the law to prosecute Donald Trump.
Well, hold on for a second. Wait, Billy, hold on. I have to reject that.
Second.
It was not within the law, though. If the J6 was not properly constituted, it was operating outside of the law.
What was operating outside of the law?
The J6 committee was not a properly constituted committee in Congress.
Oh, please.
It was operating outside of the law. These things matter. It was not a...
And by the way, they made an evidence-based presentation.
No, they made
that was overwhelming.
Hollywood-produced
your guy, Trump, is going to pardon everybody who was lawfully convicted of insurrection at the Capitol. We have eyes. We can see it was no peaceful demonstration. We can see it was criminal conduct. Why is he going to pardon everybody?
That
sends a horrible message to America.
Of 37 murderers. All right, this is again, if we're gonna compare apples and apples here, we have to.
No, I'm talking about Trump and what Trump is going to do.
Okay.
And you sidestep it by selectively looking at what others have done. Let's look at what Trump is saying he's going to do.
Absolutely look at what Trump has done. Billy, you have to look at what Trump is doing in the context of what other folks are doing.
You are completely supportive of Trump. I haven't seen or heard anything you said about what Trump has said that's wrong-headed, unintelligent, unwise.
Okay, here, selecting Matt Gaetz as an initial attorney general nominee. That was a bad idea. How about that?
There we go. I want to jump in, because we're running. You guys are doing great. We could do this for hours. But Andrew just referred to President Biden's commutation of the death sentences of 37 inmates who were on death row. Donald Trump says he is going to order the Justice Department to reinstate capital punishment. And many relatives of the victims are furious with Biden for the commutations. The 37 inmates spared will serve life without the possibility of parole. We're going to break for Howard, come back, going to talk about the Panama Canal, turning Canada into a state, and your opinions and thoughts for the new year under President Trump. Howard Mallison.
Thank you, Richard. Hold on. Thank you. It amazes me how some people drive these days. They're driving crazy. If you've been out on the road, you see them weaving in and out of cars, out of lanes. It's no wonder there's so many accidents. Well, Leading Edge Auto Body and Mechanical Repair want you to know that the insurance companies cannot tell you where to take your car if you've been in an accident. Check out their reviews on Yelp, their 5-star reviews on Google. Leading Edge works on all makes and models and offers free pickup and delivery anywhere in the Baltimore area. Give them a call at 410-433-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in the heart of Mount Washington. They make your car look and run like new again. And Richard and his
Absolutely.
family have been taking their cars to leading edge forever, and they do a
Yeah.
phenomenal
I'm such
job.
a great driver. Yes. Go on.
Without a doubt, Baltimore is one of the best, if not the best, diner towns in the country. And the most popular and award winning of them all are the Double T diners. TT, totally terrific. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, the Double T diner menu offers you so many choices, you're going to want to order everything. And everything is delicious. Plus, you'll have to save room for dessert with locations on Route 40 West, Perry Hall, White Marsh, Annapolis, Pasadena, and the EC Diner in Ellicott City. Plus, Monday nights are lobster night at By the Docks in Middle River, all part of the Double T family. Back to you, Rich.
All right. Now, we're continuing with the Murphy-Langer debate. President-elect Trump wants to take back the Panama Canal. He wants to make Canada our 51st state. He wants to remove critical race theory and transgender identities out of our schools, perhaps abolishing the entire Department of Education. And he wants to eliminate wokeness, which he says is degrading this country. Andrew, you jump in here. We have about 10 or 15 minutes left. Go ahead.
Let me start with this last part, because this is important, because it gets into what Billy's been saying about Donald Trump exacerbating racial tensions in America. The reality is that you look at policies that serve to divide us and underscore the divisions between people. And again, pointing to my own experience and background, I went to a very progressive high school up in New York, the Fieldston School, the Ethical Culture Fieldston School, in which they have implemented many aspects of the kinds of DEI policies in terms of creating racial affinity groups and, engaging in all kinds of educational, what we can call propagandizing, however you want to do it. And what has it benefited the school in the space of 10 years? What was an environment in which people were celebrating what brings people together, it was serving to turn and pit people against each other in a hierarchy of victimhood. And so it comes back to this issue of, if you underscore what divides people, you cannot be surprised when people get more and more and more divided. And so we need to find ways to bring people together, and getting rid of things like DEI does that.
We need to move
that's
along, Andrew. Billy.
Sorry, yeah, but I'll go ahead. I can see my time here.
Thanks.
It sounds like you are against diversity in college. It sounds like you're against diversity in private schools and public schools.
Andrew.
And it sounds like you don't want real Black history, the true history of America, to be taught.
Not at all, Billy.
In America. And where have you ever advocated that the true American history, which is what critical race theory attempts to bring out? In other words, let's look at how we've done it in the past. It's totally inadequate. It is part of the reason that we continue to have a race problem in America today. And any attempt at teaching it accurately gets batted down by people like you.
Billy, that's not at all. That is not at all
public school in America. Hold on. You can't tell me one public school in America that has ever taught any semblance of real African American history in America.
My own public school up in New York. Before I went to private school, my public schools up in New York.
Fieldston, and so
no.
I supported her at Fieldston. Just a second, Andrew.
I could talk about
my granddaughter went to
schools in New York doing that,
and she can give you a more up-to-date vision of what Fieldston is like. She had a wonderful experience there. She was top of her class at Fieldston.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who was this, Billy?
My granddaughter Roma.
And when did Roma? Hold on for a second. This is important. When did
she was not only disabled, but she was Black, and
yes.
she had an incredible experience because it was a civil discussion of the questions that we're talking about.
Billy,
no attempt to ban things.
And Billy, but the reality is, I don't know when your granddaughter graduated, but if you go and you look at it, and I have classmates who have kids there who were talking about this. My dean just left the school because he couldn't deal with it anymore this past June. So this is, if your granddaughter graduated before 2015, it was a very different environment there. The point point is at the end, I went to public school until ninth grade, 10th grade, I switched. And my public schools were great at teaching these things. Fieldston, and this is the whole point. Fieldston, the point was to focus on what brings people together. But in the middle of the 1980s, right, there was from until about 1985, in America, the focus was from 1965 to 1985, the focus was on bringing people together. We are all the same. We have all of these same rights. And yeah, we learn about history. We learn about the bad things that America did and the mistakes
When
that
do we ever
made.
learn that?
I,
Where
I,
did you
I
ever
certainly,
learn?
Billy,
When has
I'm
it
a
ever
little
been
bit
taught
younger
in
than you
any
are,
public
but I
school
certainly
what
learned those
slavery
things.
was
Billy,
really
one at
like?
a time, John, please.
And when has it ever been taught that slavery was inherently wrong? Where has it ever been taught that the South had a
All
entire
right,
economy built on slavery? Where has it ever been taught that the
Billy,
root of
it
race
certainly has been
classification,
taught for
hold
many, many
on,
years. It
is
was taught
that
when I was
the
a
root
student.
of race classification is our alleged inferiority to the white race. That's why there's race classification in America. Don't you think Americans need to understand how wrong that is?
hey, guys,
Evidently not.
Billy, Andrew, we only have a short time
Sure.
left. And I want to ask you guys, individually or together, what are your thoughts looking ahead? And tell us how you feel the administration of Donald Trump is going to be.
I'm going to let Billy go first because I've taken the first question the last couple of them.
No,
Very,
I want to hear
very
you, man.
fair.
I love going second with you. Go
Well,
ahead.
that's fine. Listen, my hope is in the coming year that we're all going to take a step back and breathe a little more deeply and think about things a little bit more empirically and sort of take a cue again from John Fetterman. John Fetterman, who gave a great interview last weekend in which he talked about the fact that we can't go around banding around words like fascist and dictator and racist without understanding that this is going to further divide people, that we have to sort of recognize that we're going to have differences of opinion. This is what I want. I am very interested. And you know something, I'm going to take a cue from libertarian Nick Gillespie. I went to a debate that he did with the Bulwark a little bit more than a week ago, in which he, who has been a massive Trump skeptic, and is still a Trump skeptic, but he said, you know something, I'm willing to open up my mind a little bit more. And based upon the things that he is going to do that I agree with, I think we all need to be doing that.
Are you looking forward to President Trump?
Very much so.
Billy, are you looking forward to President Trump?
With extraordinary trepidation and fear. I take Donald Trump's words seriously. And when Donald Trump says he's going to be a dictator on day one, he doesn't mean that's going to end on day two. He'd be having too much fun being a dictator for it to end on day 3 or day 100 or day 200. And my hope is that we have strong enough constitutional protections that won't happen. But I'm not sure because we've never had a president who colored outside of the lines more recklessly than Donald Trump. And so my fear is that we'll have more racism. My fear is that the programs that have helped Black people to progress in America will be cut off. My fear is that we're going to have a reckless foreign policy. My fear is that we're going to have a head of all of our secret services, the CIA, the DOD, and this, that, and the other, total incompetent person who's never had anything meaningful to do with anything like that. They're afraid that he's going to have incompetent people who are so loyal to him that they're afraid to tell him the truth about what's going on in the world and why what he's suggesting is wrong. And if you don't put people like that around you, you're going to have a failed presidency. And it's going to be a disaster for America.
Joe Biden did a whole bunch of that.
He is going to have a bunch of yes men who do whatever he wants them to do. That's a prescription.
All right, Billy.
Bad outcome.
Andrew, wrap it up and go ahead.
Now, listen, again, sort of, we've seen what Billy's nightmare come true over the last 4 years. Joe Biden didn't have any non-sycophants around him. We now know that, when folks wanted to brief him on things, he was napping. I am looking forward to this change. Oh, and let me just add this. If Donald Trump is a fascist, he's a really bad one. If he's an authoritarian, he's a really bad one, because no true authoritarian fascist shrinks the size and scope of federal executive branch power. Donald Trump did that in his first term. He's promised to do it in his second term. And that's what's important to me, the shrinking of federal executive branch power.
Let me take a moment to wish, and boy, our audience has grown over this year, and we thank all of you for staying with us. Really, thousands and thousands of you have joined us here online, which has been extremely successful in this year of 2024. And we wish everyone a happy, healthy is important, new year of 2025. Lots of square-offs coming up. Andrew and Billy, you have something to say to one another?
Oh, Billy, have the happiest of New Year's. It's always fun talking to you.
Andrew, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. I had no idea that you were a complete Trump loyalist and that you were basically uncritical of any of his policy initiatives. That makes me very sad. You're too
And on
smart.
that cheery note,
Sorry to make you sad.
we wish all of you a very happy, healthy new year. We'll see you again next week. When once again we square off. Next week, our special exclusive guest will be Baltimore City Police Commissioner Richard Sher. Happy New Year and goodbye.